Thank you for the special, this city council meeting of the March 26th. The special meeting has come to order. Before I call for roll call, just in case somebody didn't quite get the number to call in, if you wish to participate through the phone, the number to call is 605-468-8002, and the access code is 156811, and then pound. Once again, the number 605-468-8002, 156811, pound. Okay, may I have roll call, please?
Roll call. Councilmember Baptista.
Yes, present.
Councilmember Aguilar.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Garcia.
Present.
Mayor Samra.
Present.
For the record, Councilmember King is not in attendance, but his absence is excused.
Okay, folks, first of all, I'd like to say this is the first time we're doing this way, so there may be some glitches that we need to work out. But I do ask everyone participating by phone, please mute your mics. That way we don't inadvertently pick up any other background that you may not want to be public or you don't want us to hear. So everybody please mute your mics at this time. And then at this time, let's please stand up for Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, please remain standing for our first responders and military members. Thank you. Okay. Council, any changes to the agenda at this time? Seeing nobody coming forward, at this time, we're gonna, citizens comment. Members of the public wishing to address the city council will be given the same amount of time, allotment time for comments, 3 minutes, as normally allowed for meetings subject to the provisions of the executive order. At a special meeting, members of the public wishing to address the council on any matter on the agenda may do so at this time. Note, under the provision of California Government Code, the city council is prohibited from discussing or taking any action item not on the agenda. Comments are normally limited to 3 minutes. So, folks that are willing, does anybody wish to make a citizen comment at this time?
Oh, I would like to make a comment.
Okay, please identify yourself.
This is David Blevins, PO Box 76, Livingston. Before I make any comments, I want to ask a question right now. Okay, this is the only time that we have to speak on the matter that you guys are discussing today, is that correct? Or are we going to have time for that later?
We have, Mr. Blevins, thank you for your question. We have one item on our agenda. The public will be afforded the time to speak at that time.
I will say, I have one question. I would like to know what city officials are present or on the phone at this time, please.
Okay. We have Councilmember Aguilar, Councilwoman Baptista, and Mayor Samra in person here, and Mayor Pro Tem Garcia is telecommuting in.
correct. We also have the city manager here. Is the, is it chief or captain, whatever, Soria, on the line also?
They are in attendance.
They are in attendance. That's what I asked.
Yes.
City officials.
Okay.
Okay. That's all I need to know right now. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. At this time, we're gonna, first of all, any other citizen comments at this time? If not, we are moving to our first item. This is a discussion and potential action items. This is the resolution of the City Council of City of Livingston ratifying the emergency order directing all individuals within the city to comply with the Merced County Health Officer's order to stay at home and establishing additional penalties for violations. Mr. Ramirez?
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Council. First of all, I just want to make sure that everybody can hear me okay.
I hear you fine.
Is everybody on the line?
Can hear me okay?
Loud and clear.
Okay, fantastic.
So
So the reason we bring this before you is that I want you guys to all know that I'm not taking this thing really lightly. Unfortunately, what's happening is we have a very small number of individuals out there that are not following the governor's orders, the county's order, and then our council's emergency order. The majority, the great majority of the individuals in this community is following. But unfortunately, that small sliver of individuals out there that are not are really putting in jeopardy the health and safety and welfare of the rest of our residents. Right now, California has 3,082 cases of confirmed coronavirus, 67 deaths. In Merced County, we have 4 cases, confirmed cases, and all of these 4 confirmed cases are individuals under the age of 40. So this specific disease is not discriminated against age, gender, socioeconomic background. It's going to affect everybody. We haven't even really started the curve, and the numbers are only continue to go up and go up. So what we're trying to avoid here is something catastrophic in our community. So it's important for us to continue to educate the public, let the public know that this is serious, that it's to their well-being and the rest of our residents. And that's actually what we've been doing. We've been educating, sending out notices. We've actually done some videos. We've sent out a bunch of communications via our social media platforms, through our staff, and also through our council, and written format. So what we wanted to do was make sure that we had, we passed our own emergency ordinance that actually highlighted it and underscored the importance of staying at home. This order itself does not mean that there's nothing in here that we currently do not have the ability to do, but what we wanted to do is use this platform to allow people to a platform for people to be able to speak, and so that we can disprove any rumors that might be spreading out there. This is not about arresting people. This is really about educating people and letting them know that if after 1, 2, 3, 4 times they do not listen, that there is an administrative citation that can actually be issued by our officers. But that is definitely not the front and center of what we're trying to do. We just really want the public to know what's going on, so that there can be peer pressure, and that they will follow the rules so they don't put in jeopardy the rest of everybody's lives here in our community. Lastly, we all know that we don't have the tools or the resources to be able to combat this invisible enemy. It can be anywhere. We also know that 20 to 25% of those cases that are transmitted from person to person are from people that are asymptomatic. That's really hard to combat. So without the personal protective equipment, without being able to see this enemy, it's only highlights the importance of why this should be taken very, very seriously. Again, we do not want to issue citations. They're administrative in nature. They would be, if we do issue, they would stay here. They would not be, sent over to the county or to the DA's office or anything like that. And at this time, I will allow our legal counsel to share some additional information specific to this item.
Yes, Jose, are you ready for me?
Go ahead, Mr. Sanchez.
Okay, Mayor. I'll try to fight. There's a little bit of an echo here, so sorry for the tech problem. So the ordinance, or the order in front of you, the order is issued by the city manager as the director of emergency services under your municipal code. The order doesn't implement new regulations other than what the county has already. Does not implement anything new than what the state has done already as well. What the order basically says is that the residents of Livingston must follow the county's order, by the health officer, the stay-at-home order. So that doesn't anything different there. The county's order also has in their section, I believe it's section 11, does provide the authority and authorize the sheriff and the police chief to enforce that order. Under state law, violation of that order is already a misdemeanor. In conversations with the city manager and seeing what is going through there and how the city is preparing, one thing that everybody wanted to make clear was this is very important. And it's very important for our own residents businesses to follow as well. The thought was, well, the county's order is not specific regarding the enforcement mechanisms. It is under the law a misdemeanor to violate that order. The thought was, well, we have the authority to do order ourselves and also expand or make clear on some of the enforcement. Everything is not as far as a misdemeanor, there's warnings. It's not a misdemeanor right away. So the thought was allow residents and business to know that the enforcement tools are the misdemeanor, but also there's administrative citations. The business that's operating against the county, the health officer's order, the governor's order, there's also the ability to suspend or potentially revoke business licenses. And that already is most likely the power already that the city has. But we wanted to make sure that it was in an order. We wanted to make sure that the residents and businesses know that it wasn't just something that the governor did. It's not something just that the county did, but it's something that's important that the city also wanted to make sure that the residents knew, that the city council, that the city manager, that this was something that everybody was on board and ordering locally.
Thank you, Mr. Sanchez. Mr. Ramirez, anything further?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
What was communicated to our public safety department is that, again, we did not want to go out there and issue citations. We wanted to make sure that they spoke to the public with respect, that we had given them opportunity to comply, and that after several attempts, if they did not listen, well, then we would initiate an administrative citation. And they can, of course, appeal to me in my office, and I can hear those and make a decision locally, so it wouldn't go anywhere else other than staying here at City Hall. So at this point, we can hear from our interim chief, Captain Soria, on what he might want to share.
Okay, first what I want to say is that I want to let everybody know that this
this order is not gonna basically give us carte blanche to go out and just start harassing people. We're not gonna do that. That's not our purpose. I am aware, hold on one second.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to let everyone know that I already know what the order is through the health department, and I am very clear on it. There's a lot of things that the county allows people still to do on a daily basis. I am not in any way going to restrict that. I am going to abide by what the county has put out. I'm going to make sure that my officers are clearly aware of all those things that are allowed to, the people are allowed to do. Before we take any action, if any action at all, they're going to have to make sure that they actually know that the person out is doing something other than what the county has allowed. So they're going to, they have to know that. The other thing is, they're going to, if any type of enforcement action is taken, they're going to have to clear it through the supervisor before we do that. So I want to get a second opinion. If they got to call me at home, whatever it may be, I want to make sure that they are doing everything right. We are not going to be out there just to go and start talking to people, telling people to go home, anything like that. For the most part, you see, we drive around, and the officers that I'm talking to every day, they basically, the people here are abiding by what they're supposed to be doing. I hope it doesn't come to this point where we actually have to give any administrative citations or do anything like that, but it may come to that. We don't know. So with putting this in place, we have it there, so it's always better to be prepared if in fact we have to go there. And that's all I have at this point in time.
Thank you, Interim Chief. Mr. Ramirez, anything further to add? Okay, at this time, I'm gonna open up to the council first. That way citizens have the opportunity to listen to our discussion before I open up for citizens. So, Councilwoman Baptista, you wish to make a comment, or?
You mentioned that officers were going to, as their regular duties of patrolling, that if they do see activities happening that they feel are not warranted according to what's already been placed in order, what?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Oh, I'm sorry, I'll repeat that. Earlier you had mentioned that the officers are Livingston Police Department, as they are patrolling in their regular duties, if they see any activities that they feel or think that aren't within the code or what's allowable, what does that look like? You said that they would approach. How does that look? In order for them to find out what our residents are doing, or certain citizens that they feel are not complying, what does that look like? What does that mean for our citizens?
If it comes to the point where we feel that somebody's out and they are not abiding by the county's orders, then we'll ask what they're doing. It hasn't come to that point yet, and we see people out every day. So for the most part, this is a little community. We do know a lot of the people. That's probably one of the benefits of having that small community. So we haven't been asking people, what are you doing out, or anything like that. And I want to keep it that way if possible. But it may be where you see the continuous person over and over, one time, two times, where the officer may have to ask. And that's all I want him to do, is ask. It's just like doing anything else. I don't want to detain them. I don't want to do anything like ask for ID or anything like that. I just want to ask, hey, what, you guys going somewhere? Just like we normally do all the time. We actually can approach people.
Yeah, so let me just jump in real quick just to give you an example. So for instance, if you have a group of individuals, 3, 4, or 5 individuals, they're not they're not implementing the social distancing requirements of 6 feet, and they're clearly not going to the, to the clinic, they're not going to the pharmacy, they're not going to the grocery store, and they're not going to work. So then I anticipate that, an officer can say, hey, where are you guys going? What are you guys doing? If they can identify what they're doing and they're implementing the social distance requirements and stuff, nobody's gonna bother them. It's when we start to see, folks using the play structures or playing at the parks, not implementing the social distancing, and they're out there clearly not going to a specific destination. If they're just out and about, exercising in front of the front yard, walking in the park, implementing the social distancing, going to work, nobody's going to do anything in that regard. Okay, it's when if you have a number of individuals that are together, they're clearly out there, doesn't fit in any of those categories, then they'll be approached. Number one. Number two, if it's a business, it's pretty clear. The business is a hair salon and they're still, they've been asked to close and they don't close, then we have the ability, we're basically telling everybody ahead of time here that we intend to issue a citation, an administrative citation, if they don't comply or revoke their business license. Now, whether or not we do that, we don't want to go there, but at least we're notifying folks, and we have the ability now, but we're using this platform to educate everybody so they wouldn't be surprised.
Anything else?
Again, I just want our public to know what, to the extent of enforcement, that we're not already doing. What are we practicing? I mean, I know that you're patrolling and everyone's keeping a watchful eye. Our citizens are out there, they are indoors like they should be, and doing their business as usual. Not as usual, I'm so sorry. Doing the business that they need to, and then going back home. And again, I've heard you mention that there are certain groups. I just want to know, how does that, if people are already home doing shelter in place and they don't want to be out and about in the community, but we have just those few, how are we justifying that we're going to do this to the whole of the community and not just that one or two people or groups of people?
Very good question. So again, there has to be a level of trust in all of this, and we're entrusting all of our lives. Public safety, as you know, is the responsibility not just of the police department, it's the responsibility of all of us. And so it's together that we're going to get there. And what we're trying to do is minimize the amount of individuals that are going to be exposed to this. It's not if there is going to be, there will be. But what we're trying to do is minimize it. We want to make sure our curve hasn't even started. We're probably about 2 weeks away, according to the experts, from the East Coast, and you can see the numbers. So now it's 4. In 2 or 3 days it'll be 8, and then 16. And before you know it, it's a lot more. So again, the majority of the population is doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing: social distancing. Going to their specific areas and going back for their own safety. And so the rest of the population is not going to be penalized for less than 1% of the folks that are not going to listen. And so the officers are going to be, and not just the officers, all of us, okay, are going to be kind of looking to see, who's out there, who's walking around. They're clearly not going to work, not going to do official business. It's non-essential, and they're not following orders. And it's those individuals then that will be approached once, approached twice, and after that, if they don't listen, then we have a mechanism to try to make them. Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to listen, even if we issue a administrative citation. We can issue them another one. But the whole idea here is to have a little more teeth, if you will, in order and educate the public so that they understand the dynamics. That this is very, very serious. So, hopefully, I answered your question, and if I didn't, please let me know, and I'll continue.
Jose's gonna jump in.
Okay. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Sanchez.
So just going back on the intent on the intent of the actual order, as was presented at the beginning, it is not meant to now have some tool where you're going to be citing everybody and nobody could come out of their house. The reality is it's also meant as an education piece, as the city manager was stating. It provides an opportunity for folks that are out, maybe they get approached and they get educated. And they say, and by the way, the city of Livingston also has an order that you have to follow, and you have to abide by the county health officer order to stay at home during this epidemic, during this crisis, this emergency. It provides a tool. Now, the reality is the tools are there for the folks that just are not going to listen no matter what you tell them and are basically telling you, sorry, I'm going to do whatever I want. That's really the tools that are out there in order to handle that type of situation. The things that normally come up as well are businesses. If there's a business that's clearly open to the public, like for example, if there was, and I think the example that was given was like a hair salon, where the governor has clearly stated that those types of businesses are going to be closed. We don't have bars, but like if we had a bar, for example, that was very clearly in the order. Well, now you have a set of tools to go ahead to point to and also use if you need to. Again, it's not meant to kind of be everybody's going to get a citation or anything like that, but it's a good educational piece, and it is something, at least it's there for, and I think the council member mentioned it rightly, it's for those folks that are not listening. And hopefully everybody's doing what they need to be doing, and we're doing the best for health and safety here. But again, it's just a tool, and it's a good educational piece, this order, anyway.
And this is Juan Aguilar, Councilmember Aguilar. So that's kind of the way I was initially reading it, that it's not necessarily putting an additional burden on the community or additional guidelines to communities. I mean, the guidelines already in place from the governor's office and the county. It's the way I was seeing it is more of having those tools, like our attorney stated, to approach those that aren't really necessarily following, or there's questions about certain group of people not following those guidelines. And to me, the way I see it, and it seems like our chief is saying that it's a way of educating our public or reaching, approaching them, making sure they understand the severity of the situation. But yeah, like honestly, I do have additional questions, but to me, that's what I would like to see it being used, where if they're approached, they're educated, and it's the problem is resolved, and that's it. But if continue, for example, a business that is not an essential business continues to open day after day after day, and there's a group of people going to that business and placing people in danger, then, I mean, that's why this tool will be there to be used in that type of situation. I don't foresee, and I would not like to see the police going street by street, approaching every single citizen out there, questioning them, where they're going, what they're doing. I don't foresee it going that route. And in addition to that, we don't have the manpower to do something like that. It's more of a preventive effort. I'm a big advocate about prevention in general, and always prepare for the worst. And bottom line is that we have the responsibility as a council to safeguard the well-being of the community, and if we are able to do anything to prevent a crisis or a health crisis in our community, then we should act on it. And this is only an additional tool to do that. I don't think it's, like I said, something that we're gonna be citing people left and right. I wanna make sure that the people understand this is not a money-making mechanism. I would like to see that if anybody, hopefully nobody gets cited, that money will go directly towards those efforts of the current situation. So I would like to see that on there. Any citation monies goes to help, for meals or whatever the case may be, training, whatever. So I don't foresee that, we're gonna be pulling people left and right or anything like that. It's more like I said, we see a business that, opens day after day. It's not essential. A group of people are there, or a big birthday party at a park when we know that we should be using the parks, and that's when the officer would approach, and if they disperse, and then we're all good. But if they continue, then then we could educate them and tell them, the city actually has you could get fined and then go from there. So I know there's a lot of concerns out there that people are losing jobs and they want to keep their businesses open. But like I said, we had to have the see it as a preventive measure, and like I said, the well-being of the community comes first, and we understand these are hard, difficult situations, and people are losing their jobs and trying to maintain their business open. But that's why we're here, to try to facilitate solutions to what we could do to solve those issues, and think first of the health of the community. I think that's it for now. I think I might have additional questions, but anybody else have anything else?
Can I say one thing real quick? I just want to just let you know that we are not going to use this as a tool to stop everyone. We're not. That's not what it's meant for. And I won't allow it. That's not what we're supposed to be out there for. If anything, we're going to be out there to educate the public, not stop them and do anything to them. So that's our purpose.
Thank you. Councilwoman, do you? Any further questions?
I understand the public safety, again, is our greatest concern here. But I know that there are citizens out there that are going to want to resist, or even see this as a different kind of tactic coming from the city of Livingston. One of my questions before any of this, I've heard it said that we see these groups of people already. This was done May 17th from our part, and they aren't in compliance. Issuing those warnings, have we done that? Have we fully enforced the education part before again, because I heard it said, well, we're going to warn them one time, we're going to warn them 2 times, 3 times.
I'm sorry, but we cannot hear.
I'm sorry. Again, let me repeat.
I'm having to listen to it actually online.
Yeah?
Go ahead.
Okay.
We're also a couple seconds behind.
Test.
I think they need to speak on their cell phone for us to be able to hear.
What is the recommendation?
They can hear you now.
Okay. What I was asking was that what was said prior to, during this conversation. Is it muted? Is your phone muted? Okay, let me do it. Yeah? Well, see? Okay, so what I was saying earlier was that during the discussion, I heard from Mr. Ramirez say that, Captain Soria, also say that, you know, we see these groups of people and it's about educating them. We want to educate them. However, have we done that? I mean, I heard it said, you know, we're going to educate them once, we're going to educate them twice, and the third time.
Very important point, Councilwoman Batista. So the educational component is going to be ongoing. So I try to send out a communication, if not every day, every other day, and I've translated them in the three Pramana languages here in our community: English, Spanish, and Punjabi. And in those, and I share them with council, and so you receive some of those, and that is part of our education, ongoing education, because what happens is over time, at the very beginning, people start to put the little antennas up, and then if we don't continue to remind them, their antennas will basically start to lower. We haven't even started the curve yet, so we only anticipating that this is going to get worse and worse as time goes on. So the education piece will continue, but specifically to answer your question about our officers, when they engage the public out there, whether it's not related to to the COVID-19, they're educating the public, saying, hey, make sure that you maintain your 6-foot distance. You know, don't approach me for your protection and our protection. And then on the side of our vehicles, we've actually have magnets that we made that says, we came to work so that you can stay home for us. So we're coming up with creative ways to continue to educate the public, and we won't stop. And it's not just the officers' responsibilities, it's all of our responsibilities, because our health and safety depends on it. So thank you for bringing up that question.
Anything further?
What does this look like for people coming into Livingston that aren't our residents?
The same rule applies. So if you have somebody who's, you know, it's hard to know who's from Livingston, who's not, but that doesn't matter to us. What matters to us is that they're implementing the social distance requirements, that they are, you know, if they're going to work, that they're complying with the county's health orders, the governor's order. And so we're going to treat everybody the same, but we want them to understand that this is of utmost importance, and that if we do not implement these components, that we're going to have a hard time addressing the health needs of our community in a few weeks.
Just go real quick.
Anything further? Okay. Mr. Aguilar?
Okay, so you know, like I said, you know, this is to me, this seems like a reasonable tool, just considering that, as you know, as our chief Soria has stated, that so far you guys haven't really had to go out there and really redirect anybody or educate, you know, approach anybody. So I want to make sure everybody understands that, community understands that this is just in the situation, if the situation, you know, presents itself. Like I said, these guidelines have already been set in place, you know, as we all know. So this is just a tool to be able to use in case it's needed. You know, there's not necessarily the police department or the city is going to be doing anything different at all. So to me, it's just an additional tool to really, you know, address if the concern comes up.
Thank you. Anything further?
Again, I understand the public safety is our number one here. In reading this, it says, in addition, code enforcement may enforce a violation, and the administrative citation, can you explain more about what is meant by administrative citation so our public knows?
Councilwoman, good question again. So the administrative citation is, the best analogy that I can use for you is kind of like code enforcement. So a code enforcement officer, so if you have, let's say you have an abandoned vehicle, you're not upkeeping it, or you have a bunch of, you haven't, taken care of your weeds on in the open field, or you have a pile of garbage in front of your house, it's the same. It's administrative citation. And so the administrative citation is something that we keep here locally. We're not going to send it off to anywhere else. We're going to address it all locally. And so, again, if somebody does receive an administrative citation, they can ask for a hearing or a meeting with me, go over the situation, and if I deem that the administrative citation is not warranted or it's not necessary, we'll waive it. But again, there's a balance there, so that we have procedures to make things fair. So it's not just you got it and that's it. And lastly, we want to prepare for the worst and hope for the best. And so we would prefer to err on the era of extreme caution than leave the door open to an invisible enemy that we really can't fight.
So again, it was said, that this is an extra tool. In reading it, it says we may. Again, what makes that different than what's enforced right now? If it says may, just because it says may doesn't mean you will do it.
Well, that's correct. Yeah, it says we may. So our legal counsel, as I had also mentioned at the very beginning, if we, even though we have the powers already, okay, to go ahead and issue administrative citations, the whole intent is to educate the public and also symbolically let everybody know that we're taking this on locally ourselves as well, that this is important to us, that we are coming up with our own order here locally, and then not just start implementing and giving people citations or people not understanding how this is supposed to work. This platform that we're doing right here and all the questions that you're asking and that the other people are going to ask are going to be broadcast, and they get to hear what's going on, and we dispel rumors that are out in the community. So again, an educational platform, these are tools. We want to make sure that people know that we have these tools in place, and then that way the public is educated, and hopefully just through peer pressure and neighbor to neighbor start to communicate and say, hey, you know what, I didn't think this was that serious. It is serious, and you know what, you shouldn't. You should obey with what has been given at all levels of government now. And so, again, it's a tool, and it's an education tool, and so that's why we want to roll it out in this fashion, so people know. And there's one other thing too. I'm sure that there's going to be other communities that are going to take our lead. We want to make sure that people know and understand that in order to address this, we can't create our own silo here. We need everybody else that's in our county and in our state, et cetera, that, to bring more awareness. If you go on the news right now or read on any articles, there's folks that are talking about, extreme shutdowns, completely closing everything off. We don't want to get to that point. So at this point, if everybody does what they're supposed to do, guess what? The virus will not come into your home or into your business unless you give it an invitation. And we're trying to do everything we can not to give them an invitation.
Juan has something to say, go ahead.
No, you still have the floor. Do you,
Oh, so sorry.
yeah, Mr. Ramirez was responding to your question rather. You lose your,
Yeah.
okay,
Sorry.
that's okay. What I'll do is I'll temporarily give the floor to Mr. Aguilar, okay?
Okay, so to me, it's just to make it real, to me, the way I understand it is, everything that's already in place, these guidelines are already in place, is basically explain a little bit more about what enforcement means in Livingston, correct? And enforcement in Livingston means that there'll be could potentially be a citation of $500. So everything's already, these guidelines are already in place. It's just defining what enforcement means in Livingston a little bit better, if I'm not mistaken. Sanchez, if that's correct, could you please say?
Oh, is that a question?
You still ask all the questions you want.
I lost my train of thought.
Huh? You lost it? Okay. Mayor Pro Tem, are you still, do you have any questions at this time?
No, I don't have any,
You do not? Okay. Councilwoman Batista, do you wish for me to allow the public to comment, or you wish to ask further questions at this time?
I'd like to hear from the citizens.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay, before we open it to the public, Mr. Aguilar, further comments?
Just a quick comment, just to further state that the city is committed to doing anything in its power to be proactive and really, preventing any further public health issues in the community. And just like I stated, and I think I've been very clear that we don't want to see, we're not directing our law enforcement officers to be citing people left and right, anything like that. Everything's already in place. It's just defining what enforcement means in Livingston, which it means it could lead up to a fine, which the way I'm hoping it becomes is, or it doesn't even reach to that level. It's more of a tool. That's all.
Okay.
Can I say one thing?
Go ahead, Captain.
Okay, I just wanted to say one thing, that somebody had said that this thing's been going on for a few weeks now. And I can't guarantee anything, but we have not had one incident. There's been a stay-at-home order for, I think, probably about 3 weeks. But we have not had one incident. So my officers know really what's going on. And I'm going to continue to educate them. And they also, like you were asking, if we're educating, yes, my officers actually have pamphlets that they hand out to the citizens that they come in contact, not for that, just daily contacts for whatever. They hand that out, as well as much as we put out on social media as well. So we are educating the public as much as possible, and we're going to continue to do it.
Mr. Aguilar, further question?
Not a question, but just to further go from that statement, and it's not only, I know we've been mentioning law enforcement or police officers, but the responsibility lies on the whole city, not only police officers, but in regards to educating the community, it falls on the fire department, it falls on our public works department, it falls on all of that. So you just want to make sure that everybody's aware of that.
Thank you. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna go ahead and allow the public to comment, but please remember that your comment is limited to 3 minutes. I'll try not to interrupt, and I will give you a 30-second warning. So at this time, does anybody, and when you do, please identify yourself so others know to mute their mics. So the first person, is anybody wish to ask questions or comment on this item? Please come forward. Can you please state your name and address for the record? Okay, Mr. Blemmons, can you speak a little louder into your phone, please? It was just a little low.
Is this any better?
Much better, thank you.
Okay. Let me start by saying that this virus is very serious. I don't take it lightly, but I also don't take the steps that you are attempting to take lightly either. Most of my comments are directed at Captain Soria. I appreciate what you said to this point, and you know, this probably needs to be done, and it will be done whether I object to it or not. But I have grave reservations about this. We have a very young police force, and you're giving them powers that are maybe questionable. Will they be pulling people over at their discretion? How would you stop that? It only takes one officer to mess it up for everyone. There is potential for harassment here. What is the protocol? Is it strictly their discretion? And you know, we have a large segment of our community that is already intimidated and afraid of the police department. How are you going to keep that from getting worse? My other question is, okay, you are going to enact this. It's going to happen. For how long? When does this go away? Those are basically my questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Blevins, for that question. Just from the onset, just to underline again, our officers already have that ability and to issue, so we're not giving them new powers, just to make that.
You are giving them powers to pull people over for no.
Mr. Blemmons, just one moment, let him answer your question, then I will give you back. You still got 30 seconds, okay? Hold on, please.
So that you can hear it from our legal counsel. You don't have to believe me, but you can hear it. So if Mr. Sanchez can communicate that, that would be great.
Mr. Sanchez?
Yes, absolutely. Section 11 of the actual order already, the county's order, already gives the power or has the police chief and the sheriff, gives them the ability to enforce the order. So the ability to enforce the order is already there. When you look at the health and safety code, for example, there's a health and safety code provision which makes violation of a health order a misdemeanor. There's also sections in the government code which have violations of an order under an emergency, a misdemeanor. So the sections are already there under state law that violations of an order are already a crime. What Livingston is doing through this order is just detailing for folks, look, this is how we enforce, this is how we potentially could enforce. Businesses that remain open, and I think that that's kind of been one of the big issues in a lot of jurisdictions, businesses that are refusing to close, that are not essential businesses pursuant to the order or pursuant to the governor's order. Well, now there's an ability as well through this order, or there's at least you could go educate them, saying, look, this also involves us potentially revoking a business permit, a business license. But again, so it's a little more detailed than just saying, hey, police chief, sheriff, go enforce. Well, what does that mean? Well, now this adds a little more clarity to that. I hope that answers the question, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Sanchez. Mr. Blevins, you still got 45 seconds. Go ahead, please.
Okay, that didn't answer my question at all. My question was, what steps are you taking to ensure that the officers are using proper discretion, that they are not stopping people on a whim? That's my question.
Okay, Mr. Soria?
Yeah, Mr. Blevins, just so you know, again, I go back to this has been going on for a few weeks now, and we haven't had any incidents. I already told my officers I don't want them stopping anybody for that sole purpose. It isn't gonna happen. If I find out that it's happened, I'll deal with it. All our guys have in-car video. They have videos on themselves. So if I see any misconduct, I'm gonna deal with it, and it's only gonna happen once. But right now, I have a standing order. They are not to be pulling cars over just for that sole purpose.
Okay, no, your time is up now, sir. Thank you. Anybody else? Please ask the question. Please identify yourself.
I want to follow up on what David Blevins already started, and hopefully you can put the kibosh brewers. One of the big things going around is people believing that they have to have a letter from their employer in case they are pulled over. My husband has told me that even he is going to be given a letter from his employer because of the amount of travel that he has to do back and forth from his work. Now, I had gone through the documentation included in the packet, and from what a plain reading, that such paperwork is not necessary or required. I am just wondering if I could get a response from the interim chief about that. And especially, there are people who are concerned that they are going to be stopped and unable to prove that the activity that they're doing is one of the exempt activity according to the county's documentation.
Do you have any other questions, Ms. Rodriguez?
Well, just if you could bullet point it really, keep it real simple. I mean, this meeting has been going on for, almost an hour. And if we could have a short bullet point by bullet point, this is what we're going to do. Yes, this is what we're going to do. No, you don't have to worry about this. Explanation as to what enforcement looks like, that would be helpful.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Ramirez?
Yes. Catherine, thank you very much for being on the call. So I'll tackle the first one, and then, of course, Mr. Soria can jump in. Of course, it would be very helpful, and actually a lot of businesses, especially like the schools, the clinics, and so forth, you know, they have, or the Livingston Farmers Association and some of the other buildings, they've actually issued IDs or some type of identification cards or issued a letter. And of course, if you have that and you're heading to work, it's pretty easy. I mean, you guys can show that. Officers are not going to, question you, etc. For those who do not have one, again, all you have to do is communicate to them that what you're doing and where you're heading and stuff. And so have a dialogue with them. Again, they're not going to issue a citation on the first or second. The whole idea here is, again, to educate the public and let everybody know that, that they need to protect themselves and protect others. And so if you can get a letter from your employer, that'd be great just to have in your vehicle, wherever you're going. But again, if you remember, Captain Soria said he's not gonna just be stopping individuals just because. I mean, again, they're gonna be more looking at individuals that are, you know, hanging around and several individuals in the park, or they're playing soccer on the soccer field, or they're congregated somewhere and it's not necessarily related to any essential business. It's pretty clear. I mean, if you drive around town, you'll be able to without being an officer, to, you know, figure out whether or not they're complying with the order or not. And so, again, we're going to continue to educate folks. Our city hall continues to conduct business. You guys can call, ask questions from me. You guys, we are here to protect you, and it's not going to. It's not, again, like I said, the safety of all is in our hands. So it's not in one particular department's hands, it's in all our departments. So, the other question that you mentioned was in relation to putting together some type of bullet points and stuff. We'll talk about it, and we'll look to see if we can put it out something that folks, give some people some examples, so that way they get educated and they can start to decipher things. So yes.
Sir, you have anything to add?
Yeah, just so you know, I am aware of that order as well. My officers will not be, but they're not going to be stopping anybody in their vehicles just randomly driving around. So, and they know, and I'm going to make sure that they are aware of each and everything that is stated in the county order, that they're aware of that, and they do not infringe on that whatsoever. So, I've already told them already. I will tell them again, and as you probably don't know, but my sergeants, my corporals, every day go over with my officers what they can and can't do, because we do not want to infringe on anybody's rights.
If you look, Catherine, at the order, at the county's order, they have frequently asked questions, and so a lot of questions can also be answered by looking at that order. But we'll come up with some so that you all can have some examples. So thank you for that question.
Thank you. Anybody else that wish to ask a question? Please state your name for the record.
Jason Ross, 1629.
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing you. Can you speak?
Jason Ross, 1629, Bruce Court. Number one, I'd like to ask.
Okay, hold on a second. Can you speak closer into the mic, please, into your phone?
Is better?
Okay, go ahead and state your name again, please.
Jason Roth.
Jathan Roth.
Jathan Roth, okay. Go ahead, Mr. Roth. Go ahead, please.
My question is, as the layoffs and furloughs go on, for the city water, sewer, and garbage bills, people that can't afford them, what is the city planning on doing with that? That's one question. Number two is, as this pandemic gets worse, is the city really prepared for a nationwide lockdown, and what would they do to help the citizens for food, water, and essentials?
Okay.
Now, the first question is,
Mr. Ross?
Mr. Ross? Yeah.
We're really having a hard time listening to you or
understand what you're saying.
Can you repeat
the
first two questions again, please?
Okay, as for people that are furloughed, laid off, or fired, how is the city prepared to help them with their water, sewer, and garbage bills?
Okay,
Let me answer that question first.
We could hear
We
clearly.
could hear it clearly now.
So, as it relates to furlough or fired, what are we going to do for water and sewer? Okay. First of all, we communicated out in our first communication that we are not going to charge any penalties for folks. Folks are still going to be responsible for their payment, but we're not going to charge any late fees. We're not gonna charge any penalties of any sort. And today, as a matter of fact, because of the stimulus package that, everybody was kind of waiting for, I grabbed that and tried to decipher it and put it down in plain English, okay, and plain Spanish and Punjabi. And I posted it on our city webpage and our Facebook page so that folks kind of get an idea of what's to come. But again, we will work with our residents. We're not planning on shutting anybody's water off or sewer or garbage. And hopefully the stimulus package will get here soon so that you guys can address your personal needs. So thank you for that question. Next.
As in the news, America is now getting affected very badly. In the case of a nationwide lockdown, how is the city prepared to take care of necessary essentials for our citizens?
Great question. So his question is if there's going to be a national lockdown, if, let's say, the president, governor issues a national lockdown, how are we as a community prepared to keep the essential services going? So when our council declared a national emergency, a local emergency here not too long ago, we instituted our incident command response since day one. So we closed City Hall, but City Hall continues to operate. We're going to make sure that our residents are going to be able to receive potable water at home, have their garbage picked up, and that our sewer lines are unplugged. And by the way, we also posted something notifying everybody to please do not throw any of their disinfectant wipes, napkins, or the like down the toilet, because that can plug up your system. So please don't do that. But, so we have our employees working around the clock, whether it be public safety, whether it be public works, administration, to make sure that even weekends, we're on constant daily calls, monitoring situation. So we are ready. So if there is a lockdown, your essential services will continue to be provided to you. The only difference is folks will have to stay indoors. So thank you for that question.
Thank you.
And I know I don't have much time, but police patrol, where I live, there's not very much out here on the county line. I see them mostly at the pink store and at the middle school cars talking.
That will be noted, and I will communicate it to Captain Sawyer. Thank you.
Okay, does anybody else from the public have any questions? Please come forward at this time.
Yes. Good evening. This is Jose Moran.
I'm having a difficult time hearing you. Can you please speak a little louder and more directly into your microphone?
Okay. Can you hear me better?
Can you do a little louder?
Okay.
There you go, much
A little
better.
bit better now?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry about that. Well, first of all, I just want to say great questions to the previous people that were asking those questions. I think those are very important. And I actually have two questions. One of them is in the resolution, second to last, page number 2, where it says, due to emergency order issue by the Director of Emergency Services, shall remain in effect until rescinded, superseded, or amended in writing by the Director of the Disaster Council. Is there a way that we could have, or to be considered, something like something more specific, 3 months, 5 months, 6 months? I think that might make a big difference. And question number 2.
Hey, can I answer that one real quick?
Let him ask a second question.
Yes, go ahead.
So thank you, Mr. Moran. Very good question as well. In our communication that we put out, I'm sure that a lot of the residents should have received a copy. We're basically following the school district timeline. So we put out April 20th, and so of course there's a lot of time between here and April 20th. So we don't know what on-the-ground situation is going to be. We hope that this is behind us. So it's a living, breathing document, and so it's hard to really, put an end date to it, but we chose the same date as the school district, so that way all of us are working together and not to confuse people and make sure that there's no mixed messages. But very good question.
And I'm sorry, Mayor, can I just make a comment on that?
Go ahead,
Sorry
Mr.
to
Sanchez,
interrupt.
go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead, Mr. Sanchez.
Not just the school district, but the order from the county, which we're telling folks to follow, states that, that the order actually is in place. This order shall become effective immediately and will continue until it is rescinded, superseded, or amended in writing by the health officer. So there wasn't an end date there either. So it's a fluid situation that we're watching. The governor's order also didn't have an end date, and that's why it wasn't put in here. We're looking at different factors. I know the city manager mentioned with the school district, but also the county health officer's order was also influential on the current language of the order in front of you.
Good point.
Good point.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Moran. Does anybody else have any questions?
Can I add just one more question, please?
Go ahead.
Since how, do we have something in place to where, like, the different shifts, I believe there's two different shifts in PD, for them to know, or for them to be able to keep track of the people that will be considered repeat offenders that have been warned more than a few times, and they've been educated about what they're expected, or what they're being asked to do, in order for the different officers and different shifts to know if someone is a repeat offender or not.
Mr. Moran, can you repeat the question? Because it was kind of scratchy.
Yeah,
We want to make sure.
Can you please speak louder? Oh, can you please speak louder into the mic? If you have it on speaker, it's better that you put up to your ear and speak into it directly, please.
Okay, let me try that now.
Yeah, I can hear you well now.
I can hear you well now.
Go ahead, Mr. Moran. I think we lost Mr. Moran. Is there anybody else that wishes to ask a question?
Yeah, I have a question. I have a couple questions.
Please turn off the speaker portion of it and direct it to your ear and use the mic. And please identify yourself.
I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Say that. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, please.
Maybe this will be better.
Yeah, it is. And please identify yourself.
Sure, you sound a little scratchy, but yes, Jesus Lopez, and I have a couple questions. I know that some businesses are deemed essential, and considering the size and scope of how many people are employed by foster farms, has anybody taken in consideration that this enforcement of this ordinance might be a moot point, considering the fact that you guys are acting like it's a silver bullet to combat a virus that you guys have references it being invisible, when, let's say on a conservative number, there's 3,000 to 4,000 people from this town of 15,000 or so that work at foster farms and will be interacting with each other continuously, and if one or maybe a few of them contract the virus, they'll bring it home directly to their significant others that they interact on a day-to-day basis. So whether people are socializing outside or not isn't the best focus. Maybe being able to educate people how to approach coming home from work, since obviously they are going to have to be coming home from work, preparing certain things they should be accumulating, having police officers educate people, so on and so forth, as opposed to try and ticket people.
Mr. Ramirez?
Yes, Mr. Lopez, thank you very much. Very good comment there. So, one of the things that we've been doing here locally is we've actually been communicating to our public the importance of disinfecting food when they bring it into their home, disinfecting their shoes when they bring it into their home, making sure that they clean high-touch areas. Okay, so it's a continuous education, and we're gonna continue to say that. Now, as it relates to our businesses, you know, the county health department as well as the city, we've also been dropping off leaflets, letting them know in all three languages what folks are supposed to do to minimize, you know, the virus spread. As you well stated, you know, there's 16 specific critical areas that the governor has said that are essential. And I know that our businesses are trying to do their best to address those concerns and keep operating. It's kind of one of those things that it's difficult to balance, but I'm sure that Foster Farms is doing the best they can. I will also share with you that there has been some other community members who have called and expressed concerns as it relates to Foster Farms and other businesses, and that information has been relayed to those businesses. So I appreciate your comments, and thank you for being engaged and calling this evening.
Yeah, have you actually, or has any member of council actually approached or been working hand in hand with Foster Farms in kind of prepping them, prepping their employees, disseminating information? Since obviously this ordinance isn't a silver bullet that's going to stop the spread of this virus. It's here in the United States. We're already #1 in the world, so it's only progressing worse. So I think educating people is going to be key, more so than handing out tickets or trying to regulate social distancing.
Well, Mr. Lopez, as it relates to that specific question of yours, we have no physical authority on what exactly Foster Farms, how Foster Farms operates within their premises. That is really up to USDA and the Public Health Department, and I'm sure that they're working with them. Foster Farms, I'm sure, is doing what they're supposed to. And I know that our Foster Farm plant here in Livingston is the most advanced, most efficient, and cleanest facility. And so I think that they're doing what they're supposed to do, but I do appreciate your concerns, and I will be more than happy to relay that information over to management at Foster Farms. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else from the public? Once again, anybody from the public? If not, then the public comment is now closed. I'll bring it back to the council. Mr. Aguilar, any further comments? Councilwoman Batista, any other further comments?
I just want to point out that I appreciate what Captain Storia had stated, is that he's taking out his senior staff with our younger staff to ensure that they're not infringing on anybody's rights. Again, that's part of the training and education. And I hear what Mr. Lopez, was Mr. Lopez just recently?
Yes.
What he was saying as well is educating first. And again, I'm a big advocate on educating first and then, you know, reprimand. If we haven't done our best to educate them, then I think it's what is already in place is setting in those misdemeanors. It's already in place. So why aren't we doing that already?
Yeah, we haven't had to. However, we've seen the pattern in the last few days, and I'm sure that you and other council members and their mayor can attest that we've put caution tape around play structures, about basketball courts, and other areas, and yet folks are still crossing that, and so that's why we've implemented a disinfectant program this week. Not to encourage people to go out there and play, but to disinfect so that if there is people who cross that caution tape, and do play in those structures, and somebody who has the virus was there, don't get infected. So we're coming at this from different angles and different directions. And so again, it's a preventative measure, and we can do it already. However, this is, again, the platform for educating people and allowing people to be educated, one, ask a lot of questions so that we can clear everything. And so we want to continue to do that.
Anything else, Mrs.?
Let me say one more thing, Mayor. Case in point. We know that illegal fireworks, illegal fireworks are illegal. And last go around, prior to the 4th of July, we started issuing some citations, and there were some very upset people because we were issuing citations. We can issue citations for illegal fireworks, but what we want to do is educate people way in advance and say, hey, and we plan to do this again come 4th of July, and let people know. And that way, if there is a group of the community, make them aware, make them mindful, so that when we start doing this, that there's no, I didn't know, and those kind of things. So it's more of an educational platform that we're using all of this, and also symbolically to let everybody know that we're taking this situation seriously, and that we're also putting our own order here, and then trying to encourage our other counterparts and other neighboring cities and other counties to follow along to do the educational piece and get it out so people are aware that this is a very serious situation.
Any further comments, Mrs. Batista? Okay, and for me, anything we have in here is already enforceable by the county and the state already anyway, but this kind of adds up at the local level. Now, we've had, like everybody says, that for most part, there's been a pretty good compliance out there. You know, vast majority of the people are following and they're trying to do everything they can. However, sometimes as time progresses, people kind of get at home, you know, I'm sorry? Okay, let me try this a little louder, okay? I'm sorry. So what I was saying is, right now, this order has been placed from the governor for about a week and a half. I'm cutting out. No. Anyway, what I was saying, I hope this works better. Okay, guys, I hope this works a little better. What I was saying is the order from the governor has been in effect for stay at home or shelter in place for about a week. But as time progresses, people are going to become more antsy in trying to go out there because none of us really want to be in the house. I've been in the house for a week and I don't like it, but I'm doing it for my family, for my parents, and for others' parents too. And this will also give everybody, you know, a little bit more information, and also for us to start educating people too, in my view. Now, there were some concerns that we may become a police state. No, this doesn't do that. One thing we have in Livingston, I hope everybody agrees with this, or for most part at least, is there has been, for most part, anytime citizens have concerns, I think your council has been very easily accessible. So you have been able to call us. We have been able to address the issue. At least we're trying, you know. So I think we do have that. And I think also, and maybe Mr. Sanchez can do this, but when the county rescinds its order or the state, does this order also automatically set Mr. Sanchez? Can you answer that question for me? Mr. Sanchez? Well, maybe you can answer for them, Mr. Ramirez.
I'm sorry, it's really hard to hear. It's kind of, it's really scratchy right now. Could somebody, I don't know if that was a question.
So Sanchez, I'll just repeat what the mayor said. He basically asked if the county was to rescind this and the governor rescind it, would ours automatically rescind as well? Or will we need to rescind it at that time?
You would automatically, as the director of the emergency council, or I believe that's the title under the municipal code, you would right away, the emergency would be gone. So if everything's rescinded, there's no official emergency anymore. So then all this goes away. And whether we have to just kind of do something just more of like the paperwork, we would look into that. But the reality is, if the emergency is lifted, then the findings aren't there to keep this going. And also, it's based on, you have to follow the county order. If the county order goes away, there's no order to follow at that point.
Thank you. At this time, council, any further comments? Does anybody wish to make a motion?
No? Hold on. I'll make a motion to approve the resolution of Council of the City of Livingston ratifying emergency order directive all individuals within the city to comply with the Merced County Health Officer's order to stay at home and establishing additional penalties for violations.
I have a motion by Councilman Aguilar. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a second by Mayor Pro Tem. May I have roll call, please?
Roll call. Councilmember Baptista?
Yes.
Councilmember Aguilar?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Garcia?
Yes.
Mayor Samra?
Yes.
Motion approved by a vote of 4-0.
Okay. And before we adjourn, folks, I hope everybody can hear me okay.
No, you're breaking up.
Huh? I'm breaking up?
Here, just pick up.
Okay, I hope this works a little better. For the folks in the public, I hope that technology worked to some degree, that everybody had to have their comment in. Please, we would also suggest and ask is feedback on how this worked or what we can do to improve it, because we don't know how long this declared emergency is going to be and how long we're going to be doing this. We may have to hold further council meetings this way. So anybody that can give us suggestions on how we can improve, we would really, really like to hear from you. So with that said, council, if there's no further business, we are in adjournment. Thank you.